Hello friends! In this final installment of our True Story series, we are going to be talking about taking risks. Learning to take risks for the right reasons is an important part of growing up and of following Jesus. We're going to look at a story from Scripture to discover what risk-taking has to do with who God is and who we are. Before we get to our Bible story, let's take a look at another story. Moana is a story about a girl who takes a big risk in order to save her people. She is the daughter of a Polynesian chief, but their island is dying. While her village struggles to survive, Moana is given a mission that only she can complete: to return the heart of Te Fiti, the mother island. And along with the demigod Maui and her friend Heihei, she goes on an incredible adventure to do just that. Maybe it seems unbelievable that a teenager could save her entire island, but Moana isn't the only young girl who was called to risk it all in order to save her people. In the Old Testament, there is a book called Esther. It's a story of a young Jewish girl who God uses to save the Jewish people. During Esther's time, many Jews were living far from Jerusalem and the land God gave them, including Esther and her older cousin Mordecai. Esther and Mordecai lived in a city called Susa, which was part of the Persian Empire, a kingdom that wasn't exactly known for following God. When the book begins, the king of Persia is on the search for a new wife after his former queen angered him by refusing to flaunt herself in front of the king's friends. The king's men collected a bunch of attractive young girls and added them to the king's already extensive collection of women he kept nearby to do his bidding. After a beauty contest of sorts, the king chose Esther as his favorite. Esther became queen, but not willingly. She never had a choice in the matter because the king was in charge. The king was pretty obsessed with Esther. And he liked Mordecai too, after Mordecai uncovered and stopped a plot to kill him. Jews were a minority in Persia, so Esther and Mordecai knew they needed to keep their Jewish identities a secret for their own safety. But everything changed when the lives of every Jew in Persia were suddenly threatened. One of the king's officials, Haman, convinced the king that Jews were a danger to his kingdom. Why? Because Jews refused to worship anyone but God, which means they would refuse to worship Haman or the king. Haman said the best solution would be to murder every single Jew in the kingdom. The king enthusiastically agreed, not knowing that his own queen, Esther, was Jewish. Mordecai realized that Esther was in the best position to prevent this mass execution, so he told her she had a choice to make. Because no one knew she was Jewish, it was possible Esther could continue to live undiscovered in the palace. She would be in peace right under the king's nose. Or Esther could do something risky and try to save her people. If she succeeded, everyone would be saved. And if she failed, she would die alongside them. But Mordecai told Esther, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Together, Esther and Mordecai came up with a plan. Esther, they decided, would reveal her Jewish identity to the king, hope that he didn't execute her on the spot, and try to change his mind. A series of banquets ensued, ending with Esther revealing her true identity to the king. The king was absolutely furious that Haman's decree would have endangered Esther, and let's just say that things didn't end well for Haman. The book of Esther is really interesting because it never actually mentions God at all. Although God is never mentioned, God's presence can be found on every page, behind every scene, and between every line. The book of Esther shows us that God is always at work, even when we may not see it. And it also teaches us that God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Esther didn't choose to become queen. But Mordecai reminded her that she could choose what she would do next with the power that God had given her. Like Esther, you were created by a God who is good and who is always working behind the scenes to protect and rescue God's people. You are called and can be used by your Creator to protect and rescue others. Sometimes doing the right thing for others can be risky, but remember this: because of who our Creator is, we can live for a purpose bigger than ourselves. Because of who God is, we can take risks for others. Bye, friends.